What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. Our first question comes from Tyler Williams and Josh Mansfield, who asks if Rey is holding the Mortis Dagger in the Rise of Skywalker trailer.
I really doubt it. I just don't see them... Well, first of all, it doesn't really look like it.
Refresh my memory on what that looks like, because I can't.
It's more perfectly triangular. Like, the one that Rey's holding kind of does, like, a little divot. Mm-hmm. Like, it just doesn't look like it to me. That could be down to, like, just the new interpretation of it. Could be something like that. I mean, things look slightly different in animation all the time, so maybe, but I think that would be a lot to explain in the middle of the movie.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to mention the Mortis arc at all or anything about it. I mean...
If it were an animated thing, like if this were in Star Wars Rebels again, like they mentioned the Mortis gods and everyone's like, ooh, because if you're watching Rebels, you probably also watched Clone Wars. So there's an element of that. The people that are watching the movie haven't necessarily seen the Clone Wars or Rebels or anything. So it could be this thing where like they say this is a special dagger that can kill Palpatine or something. Which
like a Sith relic.
Yeah, and that's along the lines of what the Mortis Dagger is. So there could be an element of that. I figure it has to do with the Force in some way. I just don't know how.
Yeah, I don't know. At first I thought maybe it was something that Leia had given to Rey, but I like the idea more of it being Sith related.
Where did the idea of Leia giving it to Rey come from?
If they bring back the Tantive 4, maybe it was something she had stashed away.
They just had a bunch of knives.
I don't know.
It's always funny to see, like, blades in Star Wars. I mean, I know vibroblades exist and stuff, but it's just when you just have a normal dagger.
She couldn't use the Force. She had to protect herself somehow.
I don't know. She had a blaster. I think it's funny whenever we're so used to lightsabers and you're like, yeah, swords and axes and stuff still exist. But I'm like, you're fighting you brought a knife to a lightsaber fight. Like, what? I don't know. I think that it probably has to do with I figure it's a relic of some kind. I don't know why. I don't have any reason for thinking that either. Just the fact that she's holding it while she and Kylo are like destroying Vader's helmet. Mm-hmm. And there's already rubble on the floor in there. Like, is that just a big display room for a collection of Sith stuff? And like, they're just wrecking all of it? I don't know.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
That's but one thing Kylo's really good at.
That's true. He can smash things. But Rey sees this like cool little knife and she's like, I'm going to keep this.
Will on the Net wants to know if we think Luke will be a transparent Force ghost in Episode 9, or will he be more like Yoda in The Last Jedi? So, does he mean like Yoda was less transparent than what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, I mean, Force ghosts always kind of vary in how they show up. But yeah, Yoda was like, it seemed like he was straight up there. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the thing with Force ghosts is I think that every time we see them, we learn a little bit more about how they work, or maybe they're just evolving because they are pretty new to the galaxy. Yoda was the third person to do that. Mm-hmm. So like we've seen Qui-Gon go through, he was just a disembodied voice and then he got to be visible and like from a certain point of view, Obi-Wan describes him as like basically there.
Yeah.
So I think maybe as the years go on, they just get better and better at manifesting. Yeah. So I think that Luke might be, even though he's going to be the newest Force ghost, I think that we're probably going to learn something new about them. I expect him to be more on the Yoda side, where like Yoda can hit Luke with his cane and summon Force lightning from the sky. Like,
are we going to see Force ghost Luke out there catching fish?
Yeah, he's still going through his same daily routine.
Yeah, I don't know where I read this. It was somewhere talking about the light side and the dark side of the Force, and that becoming a Force ghost or Force spirit is more of just an ability of the light side of the Force. It's not as much about it taking so much time to learn the ability to do it. I think if you're really, really connected to the light side of the Force, it happens faster for you. That could be how and why Luke comes into the game as a Force ghost so soon.
I mean, I figured that he just got whatever he needed from Yoda, Obi-Wan, because like they set up in Clone Wars that you need specific stuff.
Yeah.
It's still very vague.
But at this point, yeah, I guess there's plenty of Force ghosts for him to be taught.
Just be like, hey, here's what you do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that at some point in the 30 years after Return of the Jedi, he learned. But yeah, I think that when we see him, it'll be something new. We're going to learn something new about Force ghosts, and it won't just be, I'm shimmery and blue and kind of see-through, and that's it. I think he'll do something unexpected.
Mr. J.D. Rice asks who we think will win the duel between Rey and Kylo Ren on the Death Star wreckage.
So if I'm right, and that's earlier in the film, like Act 1 or something, I think that Kylo is probably going to walk away the victor. But I also kind of get the feeling that neither of them are like actively trying to kill each other. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Yeah, you had mentioned that maybe they're both trying to get somewhere or get something, and it seems like it's more like he does that move where he kind of like flips his lightsaber into a non-offensive position.
The Ahsoka grip.
Kind of, yeah. Which could just mean that he's using a reverse grip, but in the trailer footage that we see, they are fighting pretty intensely, but you're right, like it doesn't seem like they're trying to take each other out.
Like maybe it's just more posturing. So I don't know if there's going to be a victor. I guess it depends on where Kylo's headspace is at, because we still don't know that right now. At the end of The Last Jedi, he's like, I'll kill her, I'll kill all of them. Like, does he still feel that way at the start of The Rise of Skywalker? I guess I kind of think that he should, and then we should see him change his mind over the course of the film. So yeah, if this is near the start of the movie and like their first confrontation since The Last Jedi, I think that maybe he is trying to kill her. Maybe subconsciously he's not, but I kind of feel like he's gonna win. She'll get away, but be beaten in a way. And also, like the Allegiance comic and Spark of the Resistance, that book, have both gotten into Rey kind of struggling to use the Force. So I think she's having her own conflict right now, and might need to pick herself back up over the course of Episode 9.
Mm-hmm. There's also a part in the trailer where it seems as though Finn and Janna are running towards her in this fight. It could be a different fight, but if it's in this fight, maybe she's going to be convinced to back out of the duel and run away.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, that's definitely on the Death Star wreckage, and Finn is definitely screaming Rey. Yeah. So I assume he's worried about her, trying to warn her something. Maybe she does get hurt and like falls in the water or something, and then Finn and Janna have to save her. That's my guess. Who knows?
Rick Villanueva wants to know if Kylo Ren will use the Skywalker lightsaber in Episode 9. Well, he kind of used it in The Last Jedi, just that one little time.
That's true, yeah.
To kill one of the guards.
Yeah. I want to see a parallel from The Force Awakens where he tries to summon it to himself, and it doesn't go to him, it goes to Rey.
Or maybe it finally goes to Luke. Force Ghost Luke shows up and he's like, this time it's me.
And Kylo's like, dang it, like I keep trying to hold this thing. No, I think that he'll probably summon it to himself. Like he did activate it to kill Snoke, and then he pulls it, but then Rey catches it before he can get it. Mm-hmm. I think that this time he will summon it to himself and use it like it's, I don't know, it was passed down from his grandfather. I think that would be cool and nice, especially if they do wind up working together, which it looks like they are in the trailer. So
yeah. Do you think he would bleed that lightsaber?
No.
It would. It's silly in my head. I just imagine him trying to use it and it just won't turn on.
No, I mean, like, bleeding is a very, in the comic, it takes some time. It's not just something where I'm like, it's red now. Like,
yeah.
He would have to sit down with it. No, I don't think that saber's ever going to be anything but blue.
Yeah, but if he tries to use it against one of the good guys, maybe it just turns off and it's like, no.
He just can't catch a break.
Kara DJ asks what our new Star Wars movie traditions are.
Well, we do usually watch all of the old movies, and I think it just kind of works out that way also, that we usually have schmoedowns to study for right before a Star Wars movie, even for Solo, I think. So every December, it's like, yeah, there's a schmoedown, so we have to watch them to study anyway. But yeah, we would have watched them regardless.
At least the Force Awakens and Last Jedi, if we didn't have time to watch the rest, but our goal is to watch all of them.
I mean, for 9, it's like, yeah, we would have watched the whole saga. Not gonna do the 27-hour sit in a theater version.
No,
that's
we're too old for that.
I don't think my bladder could handle it. So yeah, we just watch them at home. For the weekend itself, for the new movie, I think we'll probably go see it twice opening weekend. I mean, the way that we work now, it's like we have to watch it, run home, do a review on it, and then we kind of get to go back and watch it again and relax and just enjoy it.
I'd say as far as traditions go, since the new trilogy started, we are going to the theater with at least 6 of our friends.
Usually 8. I mean, Fandango lets you buy 10 tickets, so I buy 10 tickets and I'm just like, all right, who wants to come with us?
Yeah. And then after the movie, we'll both ask our friends what they thought, what they noticed.
What questions they have.
Because that will help us with the review and
because they're a bunch of normies.
Yeah.
they like going to see the movies with us, but they don't read the books and the comics and stuff. So if there's anything that pops up and they're like, hey, what about this? Then it helps us think up topics.
Yeah.
That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where we left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained content like audio commentaries for the films, and we're doing audio commentaries for the Clone Wars right now. And this week's episode is Hostage Crisis, so that's all available right now if you're interested.
And if you're planning on doing a rewatch of all the movies, why not do it with our commentaries? I don't know. On to YouTube questions. Fighting Falcon 777 asks what other genres Star Wars should explore in future stories.
It's kind of tricky because I think that there's only so far you can go. Yeah, there are horror Star Wars books, but I think a straight up horror Star Wars movie would be tough. And a straight up comedy Star Wars movie would be tough. I think that you can do a Star Wars movie that has elements of these things, but doing them outright, I don't know. I think that you're kind of always going to have the war movie, Western movie, samurai movie influences, and then some movies might be funnier than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. For the books, there was that Stormtrooper zombie book.
Right.
There was a recent Legends comic that came out. I think if they wanted to bring back the Legends label, they could take that and make another horror series or a comedic version of the comics or something like that. But they would call it Legends because they don't want to garble up the canon with all this silly or stuff that's too scary, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that a Star Wars movie is still almost always going to feel like a Star Wars movie. I don't know how crazy they're going to get with messing with different genres. But that said, I think that a mystery could probably be done well. Like the Jedi investigating some
There's so much
murder.
about Star Wars that's already a mystery.
Right, but having an actual whodunit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they could have done that with Sidious and who is this guy? But they didn't really investigate it all that well. But I don't know. I think that there could be a pretty cool mystery set somewhere.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for a musical. I mean, once we find out that Kylo Ren and Rey are a thing, they might as well do a musical about it.
Well, we already had Yub Nub. What more do you want? Jedi rocks.
I want more.
Return of the Jedi is a musical.
501st Studio Legion wants to know if we'd like to see Commander Cody as one of the villains of the Kenobi series.
I think that'd be cool.
I do too. I don't know if he would be like a villain, but I hope we see him.
I mean, I don't think he'd be a hero.
Well, no. I don't know how much of a main character he would be. But if they're going to show a lot of stuff from directly after Order 66, then it would make sense for him to be in it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure Temuera Morrison would come back for the role. Mm-hmm. It would be cool to have him like actually in clone trooper armor and not CG with just like his head plastered on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I wished that Cody were in Star Wars Rebels. When we got Rex back, I always thought that it would be nice to see the two of them confront each other, because I'm sure both of them would view the other as a traitor. So yeah, I think that Cody and Obi-Wan running into each other again could have a really interesting dynamic. And something that's one of my favorite moments in the new canon is like clones realizing what they did and kind of breaking the spell that their inhibitor chips have over them. So we could get something like that for Cody.
Jack Johnson asks, how closely do we think Lucasfilm will stick to Legends material when they start telling Old Republic stories? I would imagine, like, big picture, fairly close, but I know that their whole goal is, like, creating new characters and...
I think big picture, it's going to be farther off. I think that they're really going to change things. It's all going to be different? Yeah, I think so. I mean, what we know of so far has already changed. There's still something called the 100-Year Darkness, where the Jedi and the Sith split. Mm-hmm. But I think things are going to look different. I do think that they will try to take inspiration from Legends. I think they'll probably try to bring in some familiar characters. But the same way that Thrawn was adapted to fit to the new canon, if they're going to use Darth Revan, he'll be adapted. He'll look the same, but it won't be the same story. I think that they're going to change a lot, probably.
How do you think that'll go over the fans?
I mean, the hardcore fans are probably going to be divided about it, but most Star Wars fans who just watch the movies are just going to be like, well, I didn't know how any of this worked before, so this is fine with me.
Yeah. And honestly, I think if they do take some of the Legends, the big Legends characters, and adapt them, I mean, that was kind of good enough for Thrawn fans, I think, when he came back in Rebels.
It was good enough for me.
Alex G. Blanco wants to know how Yoda survived projecting himself to Kanan, Ahsoka, and Ezra in Star Wars Rebels.
So I don't think that he was projecting himself in the same way that Luke was in The Last Jedi. I think it was more, he was basically using the world between worlds. He was on Dagobah, they were in the Lothal Temple. Like, there's already this big connection with the Force for both of them. But yeah, I think that he was more almost physically there, especially with Ezra. Like, they're talking face to face, and I think they were basically just talking through the world between worlds, and we didn't know it until season 4.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like both of them were kind of projecting to be in one place, and it wasn't just Yoda showing up in front of someone.
I don't even think that they were projecting. Like, I think that they could have reached out and touched each other. I think that the world between worlds was bending space for them, basically, to talk.
Yeah.
And it's just a completely different Force ability.
Sojin asks how long Luke's academy operated between Return of the Jedi and Ben's fall.
We don't know. And Lucasfilm, I think, is keeping it very up in the air right now, so that when they do tell that full story, they can be more flexible with it. And I don't know if they're going to tell it through books or a series or whatever, but I think they want to be able to say, okay, now we have up to 30 years that we can play with, instead of just like randomly throwing a number out.
I mean, it sounds like we'll get a little bit in the Kylo Ren series that Charles Soule is doing. But yeah, I don't think it was operating for very long, or we would have more of his Padawans running around, I think, that got older. And also, he kind of started it because of his nephew, and he had to wait till he was of a certain age and was showing enough potential, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, like, I don't think it was that so much that he wanted to make sure Ben was showing potential. I don't think Luke was ready. Yeah. Like, he goes off exploring the galaxy after Return of the Jedi, finding Force relics and just learning for himself. I don't think he was ready to be a teacher until much later. And, I mean, I'm sure he would argue that even then he wasn't ready. Mm-hmm. It is interesting, though, that, yeah, like, everyone talks about how Anakin was too old, Luke's too old, and then he goes and takes, like, this 20-year-old kid, like, that's too old, apparently, and so he had some trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right that it couldn't have been too long, or else he would have had, like, some graduated Jedi running around. Mm-hmm. That's all the time we have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
And as always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.